There we go. All right, cool. Yeah, so I don't want to take too much time from anybody, but I do want to make sure that we just cover a few things, just because I know how important it is to regroup, recenter, realign, like we talked about last week, and come together like we always do, and make sure that we're staying on track and all that good stuff. So, just really quickly, I did want to kind of talk about one thing in particular this week. And let me preface this too, because I want to make sure that we always come with a purpose, right? With everything that we do. Because I always jumped on calls in the past, and I always kind of question sometimes, like, well, what's the purpose of this call? Why are we here? What's the outcome? What's the goal? What's the target? So just as always, goal of these calls, goals in general, are to really come together, realign each other, and help each other grow as leaders, and make sure that we are able and aware of how to duplicate and develop other people. Because that's the whole goal of this: grow as leaders so that we can lead others and be able to really develop other people to do the exact same thing. Because that's how we're going to be able to actually grow this business, and relationships, loyal relationships. So I talked about in the chat the main topic for today being condensing time. And I actually wanted to just recap a couple things from this week and the chairman mentorship from last week, with Zane Khan, Chairman 100 out in the United Kingdom. And there was just so many amazing things that he talked about on the call. I'll just read off a couple things, and I want to dive into one thing in particular. But he said, I think there was like 5 or 6 different things that he went over. 5 things. Yeah, 5 things. So the first thing he said was, you have to make a decision. We know that in anything that we do in life, make a decision. But it's not about, John Maxwell said this, he said it's not about just making the decision. Like, success doesn't just maintain itself, right? Success doesn't just maintain itself. So we have to continue to manage and maintain those decisions. Like, that's how we create success in our lives. Okay, so make the decision, commit to it, set the expectations for your work ethic. And that was actually the second part. Part 2, he talked about work ethic, right? I'm not going to go into detail for all these, but he talked about, obviously, be aware of your work ethic, be aware of what you're doing every single day, and is it aligned with your actual goals? Number 3, he talked about the marathon mindset. A lot of this stuff that we talk about on here is repetitious, right? We've heard it from other people, but it's the repetition of the same thing where it becomes subconsciously embedded, and then we actually get the result. It's not hearing one thing one time and we got it. It's we're always getting it. So the marathon mindset, he talked about it like understanding that, I just got out of the shower, so my hair is like super wet. But understanding the marathon mindset, we all understand, this whole thing, we're here. Like, we've been here for a minute. So we understand, like, this is a long game, but it's about seeing the long-term vision and sprinting, right? Having those intervals, those sprints in between, so the day-to-day within your work. And I'll talk about what I was just going to say in just a sec, but marathon mindset, right? Long-term with sprints in between. Number 4, he talked about being coachable. And I know Mike Sotero talked about it the other day, the difference between teachability and coachability. One thing with coachability, he said, from what Mikey said, is like, are you actually listening to the advice from your mentors? Are you actually listening to that information, not just hearing it, but actually listening for the meaning behind what you're hearing? And not only that, but actually going out and applying that information. Cool? So being coachable. And then the last thing he said was being, your personal development. And he gave a great analogy of, if you're chopping down a tree, right? You're the one that's chopping the tree down. But what actually chops the tree down? It's the sharpening of the axe. And that sharpening of the axe is your personal development, is your mentors. It's the repetition that's going to, chop the tree down. So I really, like, when he said that, it really hit home for me, is like, yo, if you want to chop your tree down, if you want to go chairman, if you want to go whatever, like, is your next goal, it's not just about you whacking away. That's working really, really hard. It's about working smarter at the same time. So what personal development are you tuning into? Who are your mentors, and are you listening to them, right? Staying coachable, listening to what they're saying, with the intent to understand the meaning behind the words, and actually going out and applying that information. Okay, so personal development, I'll say one thing. Bob Proctor said this. He said the two ways to master something in your life are through mentors and repetition. Mentors and repetition. And he said, John Maxwell said the other day, if you dedicate, how did it go? Alex will probably remember. He basically said, if you dedicate 1 hour a day for 5 years, 1 hour a day for 5 years to one thing, you will become a master at it. Okay. And I thought about that with trading, right? And in this case, for me, what I'm really been focusing on is my leadership development. Every day I'm probably doing like 2 to 3 hours of like focused, locked in personal development. And I'm listening to John Maxwell, leadership, right? I'm listening to Simon Sinek, leadership. I'm listening to Bob Proctor, shifting my paradigm, really subconsciously embedding a lot of things that he's saying. So think about the area that you want to develop and spend the next, like, I know it's long term, but like, what else are we going to do, right? If you're not doing this, what else are you doing? I always ask myself that. But over the next 5 years, what are you going to really just like consistency over intensity every single day, putting in the time, an hour, locking in. You can find time, trust me. I don't even want to get into today what we just did. But the last part of this that I wanted to like really just talk about for the next 5 minutes or so is condensing time. And when Zane Khan went over this on the call, he basically he said it was time blocking, but he also said condensing time. And like the way that I saw this with my life is, we've all heard this before, like we go to work for 8 to 9 hours, but you know damn well that you can do that work in probably 4 hours, right? Your managers tell you to do something, you could probably get it done in half the time. You don't need a drawn out whole entire day, but we've been conditioned, like just like we went to school. We went to school for 8 hours a day. We were conditioned to do it like that, right? So understanding like what most people do in an entire month, you could probably do in a week. If it takes an entire month for somebody to prospect 100 people, that you could do it in a week. I'm just giving you like an example. Like those are just fake numbers, but you get where I'm going with this. So that's condensing time. And to really put into perspective on a day-to-day basis, what Alex and I have been doing, like this whole 75 hard has really been shaping a lot of our decisions and our habits in our mindset. It's really helped me figure out or become aware of the gaps in my life where, like Alex, we were talking this morning in the car, and we like try to share something with each other every day that like we're grateful for from each other. And she was saying something about, your discipline and my consistency. And she said, I always thought that you were disciplined before and you were consistent before we started the 75 hard, but now it's just like taking up another level. And I told her, I was like, I don't feel like I was disciplined at all before the 75 hard. Like, it's so crazy because like it looks like it is on the surface sometimes for people, but internally I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was. Where am I going with this? So I wanted to tell you guys that because with the whole time blocking thing and the condensing of the time, what we've been doing is for example, you can get a lot done if you time what you're doing. I remember a guy, he made a post about like working out the gym. He said, don't just go to the gym to go to the gym. Obviously come with a plan, but he said, time yourself. Because when you time your workouts, you'll be a lot more intense and focused when you're doing whatever workout that you're doing. So like for us, for the 75 hard, like every workout we do, it's got to be 45 minutes, nothing less. So that's brought a lot of like focus and intensity with my workout. And so, for example, I've been bringing that to other areas of my life. So other areas like my personal development, other areas like building the business. So I'll time block out 45 minutes to go all out and add new people. Okay. And I know how many people I can add in a certain period of time. Okay. So when I get better, I can obviously grow that. So just think about that for yourself. You're going to get a lot more done. You're going to be a lot more productive when you can set like kind of like time limits for yourself, because then you don't get overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God, like I'm literally going to be messaging people all night or all day. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that before. I've definitely felt that. I have like 100+ messages in my inbox right now. It's literally insane, but like it's good problems to have. But I don't get overwhelmed by the messages anymore because I have time blocks. Like I'm not messaging back people all day long. Like I have time blocks for me to do that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with messages, like number one, don't do that. Okay. Have a time block, set a 45-minute timer and just go and just lock in, because after the timer's done, go have a reset for yourself. Brendan Burchard, you guys, he has a few books, but one of them that I want to get is called High Performing Habits, something like that. But he talks about how whenever he's done, like every hour, he sets for himself like an 8-minute, like every 52 minutes, he gives himself an 8-minute like time block to like reset. So he'll stretch or he'll get some water, he'll like do something different, and he'll just get away from his work. And actually doing that, the pit stops throughout your day, is more effective than just go without doing anything. Because that's what he talked about, like what leads to burnout. And sometimes like I was doing that, and it's not like I don't want to, do this. Not like I don't want to go chairman is why I stop. It's because sometimes you're so immersed in the work that you get uninspired with doing the mundane. Because what we do is, messaging people, sometimes it can be really mundane work. I'm just being real with you. Like they don't talk about this, but it is. And sometimes like we can get so like into like just messaging and just going through the motions. But sometimes I got to check myself throughout the day and just be like, yo, Abby, are you emotionally connected to what you're doing? Like, are you emotionally involved? Are you aligned with your work? Because if I'm not, then I need to take a step back, because what we do should be, yes, it should be fun, but we should also be understanding like why we're doing the work in the first place. So I really just wanted to talk about like condensing time, because I thought that was like one of the biggest things for myself, and I know Alex, these past few weeks, of being able to do a lot in a little bit amount of time. Doing a lot in a little bit amount of time. So that's condensing time. And then the last thing I kind of want to just put this together is tracking and tweaking. I know I made a post about it the other day on my story, I think, but he said, anything you don't track doesn't change, and anything you don't tweak doesn't grow. So you can't change what you don't track, and you can't grow what you don't tweak. I'll say it again because I know it's a little confusing. You can't change what you don't track, okay? And you can't grow what you don't tweak. And what he meant by that, in my interpretation of that, is think about some of the best on the planet in what they do. Athletes, professionals, elite businessmen, whatever it may be, they track everything that they do, because you cannot make progress if you can't measure what you're doing. You cannot make progress, you cannot grow and actually make improvements and changes in your life if you're not actually tracking. And then as you're tracking it, you figure out, okay, this actually is not working. Well, tweak it, change it, right? Do something different, adjust. That's what the most successful people do anyways. That's why Warren Buffett and even Simon Sinek said in the book, like, successful people don't need all of the information. They only need about 30 to 40% of the information that you're giving them to make a decision. Because successful people, we've all heard this before, they don't always make the right decisions, but they always make their decisions right. And that's because as they make decisions, they're always tracking and tweaking what they're doing. You know what I mean? So that was something that was like super, super huge for me. It just like made sense. It just clicked. And I was like, okay, so like, for example, my notebook's in the other room, but I have a gratitude journal, and it's actually become more than just a gratitude journal. I write down 3 things that you probably heard this before, but I'm just sharing this with you.
No, I'm saying he looks like an actual bear in the face.
You good, bro? I'm gonna mute him. Basically, every morning I will write down 3 people that I'm grateful for. And it's not just anybody. It's like I have to have an emotional connection with them. Like, or I think how Alex said it, I have to feel that connection of what I'm writing down. So I may say, I'm grateful for my mom because X, Y, Z, or because she does this or whatever, right? And then I'll do 2 things that I'm grateful I get to do. So I get to wake up in the morning early and go on a walk or a run. I get to, I get to still work out at my apartment, even though the gym's closed. And then I'll do 2 things of that. And then the last thing, I'll do 1 thing of, I'm grateful for a thing. So I'm grateful for my laptop. I'm grateful for, whatever. Okay. And then I'll write down my why. Every morning I'm writing down my why. Every morning, because it's not about like just because you know your why. It's like, are you subconsciously aware of your why? Are you consciously aware of your why? Okay. So I write that down, and then I write down a few values. And I remember Simon Sinek said in his book, I'm giving you guys all the spoilers, but when you read it, it's going to click for you. It's going to be really good. But he said that values are verbs. And I think I said this last week, but when you have a value, you can't just say, family, that's a value of mine. You have to put it in actionable terms. That way you give people a sense of direction, right? Or you give yourself a sense of direction. Like big companies always have values. You see the words on the wall, community, whatever it may be, right? But that's not as effective as being able to put it into an actual actionable statement. So I write down 3 different things that are my values, like core values, and then I write down next to it like an action statement. So for example, I write down community for me. And that's a huge thing for me, community and relationships. And I write down next to it, surround yourself and leverage people that empower you. And I'm just like, that's always like in my mind. So I'm always focused on that, and I also write down freedom for me. And I write down self-reliant, self-sufficient. Those are huge. And I write down actionable statements. And then after that, I write down my goals. So I have non-negotiables. I know Chris Derrick talks about this all the time. What are your non-negotiables? Well, for me with the 75 hard, it's 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each, a gallon of water every day, 3 healthy meals, building my business 2 hours minimum every day, watching Go Live and practicing for an hour minimum a day, and reading 10 pages and showing the plan. Those are my non-negotiables. So I write them down, not because I don't know them, but because I want to this is what I do, Abby. Like, don't forget, even in the times that you don't want to do things, it. And so those are what I focus on. And then I also write down, like, I am so happy and grateful for my goal, my vision. And I sometimes will write out how we want to have a house on Camelback, and we'll open this up. So I have a whole page for this. I'm just sharing you guys for context to give you something that maybe you could do, or if you find that what you're doing isn't really working, you could try something like this. And then at the end of the day, I want you guys to hear these questions, because these have been really, really helpful for me to reflect. And this is what's going to help with the tracking and the tweaking. So we all have our own, follow-up and exposure tracker, right? We have to be able to be organized, and we track our trades. We have an entire, however you do it, you track your trades. Otherwise, you can't get better. Okay. So what I do at the end of the day, Alex and I do this together, is we'll go through and we'll ask each other, let's rate our day. Ed Milet talks about this all the time, and he actually does it in a more advanced manner, but, scale 1 to 10, rate your day. And at first we were just writing it on productivity, but I was like, that's not enough. Like, I need to feel good. I need to know that what I'm doing feels right and I'm aligned. And so I started to write down little things underneath of it to make me understand how I'm rating my day. So my rating my day has to do with, did you do your non-negotiables, right? And not only that, but was your heart in it? Did you feel good when you were doing it? Were you aligned? Were you emotionally involved and connected? Were you productive? Were you efficient about the things that you were doing? Or were you just wasting time? So all these factors go into it, and I put a rate on. It's subjective, it's yours. And then I look at that and I'm like, all right, cool, awesome. And then what you can really do is write out what a 10 out of 10 day would look like. That way you can start to visualize it, and then you can go out and actually do it. So we write that out, and then afterwards we write out something that we can improve on. Just one thing, nothing crazy, but what's something that I can improve on from yesterday that I can do better today? And it could be anything, right? And that's how you track and tweak, because you can see, okay, how can I improve? And what am I doing right? Because the next question is, what was a win from today? What did I feel really good about? What did I, really crush and slam it out the window? What's the word? Slam it out the park. I forget. Y'all don't understand. But I ask these questions because it allows me to track and tweak what I'm doing and be able to really measure my progress. So the other day, I'll share this with you because it doesn't get talked about. And I believe that, we oftentimes see people post profits. I know there's some chats, people post profits, and we oftentimes see people that rank up. but there's no context. And I'm like a huge believer that if you want to really empower your culture and the people around you, you need to give people the story. You need to give people the reasoning behind, this person that hit platinum 600 in 3 days. Well, it would be helpful to know that the person that hit platinum 600 in 3 days has been in the industry for 5 years, has been in the industry for 7 years. You know what I mean? Because all that does, if you don't give context, for a lot of people, it just discourages them. It disempowers them. So what we want to be able to do is empower people with context. Like for Tony, when you smacked P600, bro, I wanted to make sure that when we sent that message out, we let people know that you've been persistent and consistent for the last 3 years. How powerful of a story is that? Because when people can read that, they can say, wow, I've only been in for 12 months. I can still make this happen. Or, wow, I'm coming up on 3 years and I'm still a platinum 150. I can still make this happen. Giving context. That's what this is about, because it empowers people when you do that. A lot of people try to be transparent and vulnerable with the way that they speak and everything and whatever. Most people are not. And Simon Sinek talks about in his book how transparency isn't giving away all the details in your life, okay? It's about giving context and substance. That's all it is. Okay, so I share that because I think it's a super important thing that when we do that, we want to make sure that we're building the right culture and we're empowering people along the way, because they're going to feel like they can actually go out and do it themselves. And we want to be able to do that for everybody. So forget the last thing I was going to say. Just just making sure that you can see. Oh, this is where I was going with it. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll wrap this up, and I would love to hear from you guys as well. But a lot of times I've been on calls, and I'm sure you guys have as well, where whoever's speaking, maybe they're going over a training about their prospecting, and what they do with their prospecting. And I remember I was on a call with an individual 2 years ago, and at the time I was very, very excited. It was a really hypey call, and it made sense when they were going through the information. But then when you went out and did it, yes, of course you have to do it over and over again for it to really start to see results. But not everything that we do is going to be typical conversation like, right? Just because you give a blueprint doesn't mean every conversation is going to go that way. It's just not, right? So I always hear people say, I'm messaging like 50 to 100 people every day. I'm messaging this. And I was one of them. Just the other week, I was telling you guys I messaged like 50 people every day, which I did. But then I started to realize that I wasn't being consistent with it. I wasn't as effective with my messaging back. And I was like, yo, Alex, I need to stop. Like, I need to take a step back and stop falling for the hype, stop doing what everybody else is saying that we should do, and really take inventory of like, what's actually working? What's actually sustainable? Because a lot of times people will go into launch mode or phase 1 mode, like the 90-day sprints or whatever. But like, I don't want to go into stopping and starting, prospecting to managing. No, it's a combo of both. I never want to leave phase 1. So we need to do things that are sustainable. And I'm sorry that I led with that approach, because sometimes I think that it can be a little discouraging, because you go out and do it and you're like, I can't message 50 people a day. You have to do what's working for you and what's aligned with your goals. So I'll share with you what I'm doing right now this is how I was able to tweak what I was doing. Okay. I wrote down, what do I need to improve? This is just the other day. I said, what do I need to improve in my schedule? Well, you need to stop messaging 50 plus people a day, because the conversations, like, you're not getting back to everybody in the first place, number one, and you're not getting as many exposures because you're taking too long to go through all these messages, and you're not giving the quality and the attention to these people. You're just blowing through the messages. So I said, let's stop that and let's do 10. So what I'm doing is 10 on Facebook. I'm adding 10 people on Facebook, and I'm adding 10 people on Instagram. And a lot of people, they might say, Abby, that's not a lot of people. Like, you're not going to go chairman pretty quickly. Well, I'm not trying to go chairman pretty quickly. I'm trying to like be in the game, baby. Like, I'm trying to go like long-term vision type of thing. So I did this the other day, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I went through all of my messages. I actually was able to get to where I was trying to go with my productivity. And I felt so much more aligned and connected with the way that I was doing it. I was like, this is the schedule. This is what's going to work for me. So if you're trying to do a lot and you're realizing that you're not as productive, take a step back, go through those questions and really see what you can change or what you can update or fix or whatever within your schedule, and then adapt and continue to make those decisions moving forward. And then if you notice that it's still not working or something needs to tweak, do it. But this is how we're able to change, and this is how we're able to grow. And tying it all in with the condensing of time, what you think that you can do in an entire day, you could probably do in 2 hours. I bet you. I bet you if you really set a schedule for yourself, instead of taking 8 hours to do it, you could probably do it in 2 or 3. So that is all from me. I just really wanted to share that with you because it's been something that's super, super helpful for me. But I would love to open it up as normal and hear from you guys. How was your week? How are you guys doing? Any feedback that maybe you guys want to share or thoughts or takeaways, please go for it.
What you were saying about the whole condensing time to like 45-minute increments makes a lot of sense, because it's like, why are you going to burn yourself out by saying, man, I have to do calls for like 2 hours, or I have to message people for like 2 hours? Because then that right there kind of like unmotivates you to even begin, you know? But I like what you're saying about that, and just having the time blocks. Yeah, I like that. I like everything you said. It was very helpful.
Hey, Abby.
What's up?
I was just wondering, where did you get that information from? Like about the time condensing and stuff?
Yes, sorry. I got it from Zane Khan. He did the chairman mentorship on Sunday last week. I watched it and he went over that a little bit. And then I also read it from Start With Why. Simon Sinek has it in his book as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And also I know the Matt Green, Mike Sotero video that they did the other day. I haven't gotten the recording yet. I think Matt hasn't uploaded it yet. I know it's YouTube, but I haven't seen it. So maybe he has it on unlisted, but I messaged him. So I'm just waiting to get a reply and see on that video. Cause you guys are all on the call. It was fire. It was really good. It's something I want to definitely go back to. Cool. Anybody else share anything? Could be anything, y'all. Open discussion.
I'm ready to have a great week trading and just everything this week. I feel like this week is going to be a good week. Honestly, my goal is to hit P1000 before my birthday, July 18th. So, like, I still feel like I could do it. So,
You can do it. You got this.
it's already done.
Done.
It is done, brother. It is.
Yo, you guys have been crushing it. Alex, you're doing awesome. Like, holy crap, dude.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Happy July 4th, everybody.
Happy 4th. You guys have any plans today?
I'm actually about to make some food shortly.